No. Hi everyone, welcome to the Racing House. My name is Sakki and today we're back again for another live stream. We're going to be talking about sprint races, we're going to be talking about F1 trophies, and lastly we're going to be giving our predictions for the upcoming Imola Grand Prix. That's not the Imola Grand Prix. I don't know, Adam, can you actually say the full-on name of this Grand Prix coming up?
Well, we said, didn't we? We said the other day that we were going to try and remember it. And I looked at it about 15 times and gave up. So the official name is Formula One Pirelli Gran Premio del Made in Italy, del Emilia Romagna 2021.
Yeah, I looked at it today for the first time because I just call it the Imola Grand Prix for ease, pure ease, and yeah, I gave up, completely gave up. It's just
I don't understand. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it, but there must be some complication in terms of copyright or trademarking the actual name Imola Grand Prix because it's quite historic. If you're in the comment section, give us a like and send in your questions as we're talking. We'll try and show it on the screen, but we really want to get you involved. So starting off with sprint races, it's pretty much been confirmed that it's going to go ahead at some point this season. The F1 teams have secured extra budget for it to go ahead and this experiment to begin. Me personally, I don't have that much knowledge about them in other racing categories, but I know they obviously take place and they've drawn inspiration from series like F2. And they thought, what other time to give it a go than probably one of the most chaotic times in the history of the planet. Why not give it a go? What are your thoughts on the prospect of a sprint race soon?
Yeah, I think what you just mentioned about excellent mug, by the way. Very nice. And what you mentioned about the year is an interesting point actually, because obviously next year there's going to be so many changes in terms of the 2022 rule changes and the differences in the cars and everything that comes with that. I suppose you're right. Now is a good time to test this and to have a look. So obviously Formula 2 do this already.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's good. It makes it a bit more interesting. So I think the thing with Formula 2 is, with it being a junior category, if there are more reasons for people to watch it and more excitement and more kind of it's not as predictable, then that's a good thing.
Yeah.
The thing is, when you then try and make that translate to Formula 1, which is obviously the pinnacle and the ultimate and all that, is it a bit of a gimmick? Is it, and I know there's been lots of arguments in terms of, oh well, this makes the weekends better and all that sort of stuff. But we've just been having a look on a website. It's not anything official, but just as the plan of the sprint race weekends. So there'd be 60-minute FP1. This is on Friday, so 60-minute FP1, Q1, 2, and 3 on the Friday, and then Parc Fermé rules. So no more changes to the cars after the Friday.
Yeah.
And then on Saturday, FP2, still under Parc Fermé. So why? And then a 100-kilometre sprint race, which would be about 20 laps for most tracks, with a free choice of tyres. So then there'd be points, 3 points to the winner, 2 points to the second placed car, and 1 point to the third placed car. And then on Sunday, the Grand Prix, with the grid composed according to the order of Saturday's race, with compounds of tyres being free choice. So no soft mediums or anything like that, none of that stuff anymore, apart from the sprint race on the Saturday. Just weird.
So is that what they do in F2? So they assign 3 points to the winner?
They do good, yeah, they do points for the winner, yeah. I don't know how many.
As little as that?
I don't think it's that little.
Wow.
But it's experimental, isn't it, this year for F1? So I think that might be why.
Toto
let's just make it not really matter that much.
I imagine Toto was like, let's give it a go, but let's make it as least impactful as possible so that the risk is minimized. To be honest, I don't know too much about it, but from the sounds of it and what I've read so far, I think it's worth giving it a go at least, just to mix things up. I think people are just so done with the same old teams. When I say teams, I just mean Mercedes and Red Bull-ish dominating each and every race weekend. when I say Red Bull, I should just say Max, dominating each and every weekend. It's just not very entertaining for anyone. So I think them giving
if it's a close race at the front, I think it's quite entertaining. And I think the entertaining bit is the midfield battles and the storylines that go into it. And I think that's what people have held on to these past couple of years. Because really, you would imagine that if there's still going to be Q1, 2, and 3, you're still gonna have that same issue as before. You're just going to see a quicker version of it and then a longer version of it on the Sunday.
Yeah.
Because you would assume that
my headphones 1 second. You continue.
Okay. So you'd assume that if it was going to be Mercedes and Red Bull at the head of that pack, then that would continue regardless of how long the race was, because obviously usually within 10 or 15 laps you can see that at least one of either the Mercedes or Red Bull drivers does have quite a significant advantage. So it's then just almost like a replay of that on Sunday, which I don't really get it. But I think if there was some, I don't know, like I don't like the idea of reverse grids in F1 because I think that goes against what F1's about. But I don't know if this is the answer. But we're going to see it 3 times this year, apparently.
Yeah, I think it's worth giving a go. The idea for me of a reverse grid just goes, like you said, completely against any kind of incentive for teams to put money into their cars and try and beat Mercedes.
And this is what they do in F2. So they do a reverse grid in F2. If I remember correctly, because I don't watch as much F2 as I probably should, but the top 8 of the sprint race and then reversed for the feature race, which is the full length race. So if you come first in the sprint race, you then go to 8th. But they're not going to do that for F1, obviously. They're not going to put Lewis and Max 7th and 8th or 8th and 7th. Just because it won't happen.
Yeah, the idea of that happening is, it's just not a possibility. Who do you think is going to benefit the most from the teams out of these sprint races? Obviously, don't necessarily include the fastest teams. I wouldn't include Mercedes or.
I don't know. I don't really know if it's going to make any difference. I don't know if that's me just being sceptical or there's something that I don't really get about it. I don't really understand why. I think what I imagine it's for is because people more commonly watch the race than qualify, which is fair enough because you don't earn points in qualifying. But so I think it might be a way to try and improve both TV audience and ticket sales. Yeah, because now there's a reason for people to go on Friday because qualifying. So maybe they're hoping to expand the secure the bag argument.
Yeah, trying to get people to justify that huge expense for a whole weekend, because we were actually looking at the cost of going to a race this year at Silverstone, and it's just astronomical is the word.
We need more subscribers before that happens, don't we?
Yeah, so make sure if you're watching on a little bit later on, hit that subscribe button because it will help us. We've got some comments coming in. We've got one from Liam, Talks Motorsport. Says the F1 2021 looks not bad. Are you talking about the game, Liam?
That's the game, yeah. So I've not seen this. Also, shout out to Liam for always being in these live streams. He's all the time.
He's active.
He's active. Yeah, active. He's about. I've seen that there's articles about this. There's been previews, but I've not seen them yet. But I will be having a look.
Yeah, I think they've added a what's the word? It's not career feature. Is that right?
I think they've expanded the career feature. I think
the career feature.
They've got a bit more of a story to it.
Yeah. So
Liam, let us know. Let us know what you've seen.
Yeah. Please let us know in the comment section what you've seen. Paul saying, yeah, you've corrected me. Actually, I got confused. It's not Imola, it's San Marino. I was getting confused with where Senna actually passed away. So he's saying that it's not that hard to pronounce. It's all about the San Marino Grand Prix, which is probably more historic. So yeah, thank you for that. Keep the comments coming in. I think we're going to move on to the next topic. What do you have for us, Adam?
So the next one, well, there's a few, isn't there, around the Grand Prix. So there's the The ongoing Red Bull situation. Shall we talk about that one next?
Oh God, yeah. So let's talk about this, because I saw an article very, very, very recently. They were quoting the podcast, which was a bit weird, but we'll go with it because it did kind of make me think: what are Sergio Perez's prospects coming up against Max? Me, for one, I think it's way too early to actually come to any judgment. But this article basically had the argument that Sergio Perez just has to settle for the fact that he's slower than Max. And you can't really, for me, you can't really come to that conclusion that quickly, because we've had one race. There's going to be a lot of changes to the car over the coming races. And it just goes against the instinct of every Formula One driver, especially someone like Sergio Perez, because you can tell that he's such a massive fighter. Like, he just never gives up. Even in the first race of the season, him starting in the pit lane, his performance to go from the back all the way to basically securing points and end up in fifth. Is it fifth place?
I think so.
Yeah, I think he ended up in fifth place. Let us know in the comment section where Sergio Perez ended up in the first race of the season. But that performance just showed you how good a driver he is during the race. Like, I've always questioned his starts, especially, and he might not be as quick as Max over one lap, hence the difference between Max and most of his teammates during qualifying. But when it comes to race time, he's up there in terms of his experience and his ability to just drive through the pack and get points, even if he starts badly or even if he starts way back in the grid. So for me, it's way too early to come to any conclusion between Max and Sergio Perez. And I'm hoping that he is able to take the fight to Max. I really want it to happen. I'm hoping that Red Bull have learned from their mistakes last year, because they openly came out and admitted the cars were significantly different. Which, does that imply that that one driver is getting preference over the other driver in terms of upgrades and things that are put on the car? Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think the outlet that it came from didn't. I don't know if there was any particular reference to anything that's happened within the paddock or anything that's been said within the paddock. So I think it was a comment that was made by someone, and I agree. I think it is a bit too soon, and particularly considering the performance. Yeah, so just seeing that comment from Paul, Yorkshire Grand Prix. Can you imagine that? Yeah, I think it's about the performances, and yeah, he might not be as blisteringly quick over that one lap, but you can guarantee that Perez will fight through circumstances and he will make the best of a bad situation. The real question is, can he make the best of a good starting position? Can he make the best of a strong position? And that'll be the real test. I'm sure we'll see that at some point during the year. I'm sure we'll see him qualify within the top three at least once this year. You would just assume that he will, or at least the top four, and then from there, let's see what he's got like at the sharp end against the top competition. I think he's quick enough, and I think, like you say, his race pace and his racecraft is very, very much at the sharp end of our drivers. I'm not worried about Perez yet at all.
What I want to see from him is just him building progressively and getting better and closer to Max in qualifying, or at least I want to see during the race him potentially trying to get close to him, assuming that the Mercedes cars are ahead of Max as the season goes on. I think a lot of people are expecting Mercedes to come back stronger in the next few races, but Red Bull could maintain that advantage that they do have. But I want to see Sergio just step up in terms of how he's performing before that race, because no one doubts how he can perform during the race and fight through the grid when he is hampered or he's making up places. He did it to huge effect last season, which led to a race win, which was super impressive. So I really do hope that he is able to do it. And I think, he's more than capable. F1 trophies, unless you had anything else to say.
No, I was putting this off, but let's talk about it.
So if anyone hasn't seen it already, for the next race, they've done a special trophy. I'm just going to call it the Imola Grand Prix. So they've done a special trophy, which kind of looks like a jagged sword kind of thing.
It's supposed to be lightning, isn't it?
Yeah, lightning.
The thing also on this, I need to just ask everyone that's commented on the post on Instagram: are you all right? Like, is everything okay? Because there's been some unusual comments on that Instagram post.
Really?
Unusual comments. Have a look.
Oh,
if you haven't already.
I've had a look and I styled it out. I don't know if you saw my reply. If anyone hasn't seen that post, go and look at it, because I've actually made a post on the Instagram page. But yeah, I just played innocent, played naive, and asked the question, what's it doing in the draw? It should be out on display. Yeah. So it's just, it's a weird shape. It's unusual.
Looks very specialist.
Pardon?
Looks very specialist, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's meant to be a piece of art similar to the last one at Imola, I believe. Was the last one at Imola the one with the diamond in the shape of a track? Or is that another?
Could have been. Yeah.
Or was that Portimao? I can't remember. But it was a special trophy that had a diamond in it, and it was quite chunky. It had carbon fiber with a silver outline in the carbon fiber shape. But I quite like the fact that they're doing the occasional unique trophy. Not necessarily how it looks. It looks a bit of a weird one. Like it can just get lost in the trophy cabinet of Lewis Hamilton somewhere, lost in the ether, because it's just so slimline and skinny. Let us know what you think in the comment section of that new trophy that's going to be gifted to the podium sitters at the end of the weekend. I do like it. Like I said, I think they need to keep on trying for the races that aren't necessarily on the calendar as a regular occurrence, or they won't necessarily be going forward. Why not give it a go? I don't know.
I keep smiling because I'm just laughing at you trying desperately to keep it like family friendly.
I've got to keep it family friendly. I've got a job to protect. Yeah, this doesn't pay the bills. I've got to think of how it comes across, and there's a lot of young people watching. There's a lot of older crowds. Yeah, I'll let them enjoy the comment section. Do you think that they should do more of them?
Not more of those, but I think they should do more. I think they should do some more unusual trophies. I think it would be good, because I think it's good to have things that kind of pull from the local culture and things like that. I think that's important. And I think more character in stuff like that is always good. I think it's a good thing. But maybe it could do with a couple more people to review it before things get approved. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it should be put out to Instagram for feedback first.
I don't see it personally. But I don't
really. I think people are. I think people are. Lockdown is affecting some people, isn't it?
Yeah, let's call it that. Boredom in between races. We've got quite a few comments. Thanks, Umar. Sorry. Hello too. We've got one from Sarmet93. What do you guys think of Yuki for this race week? I'm just correcting your spelling or grammar there. I'm hoping
that's a meme. Right. That's a big meme.
Is it a meme?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm just too old. I'm too old to this. Seek.
Someone please educate Sakki on the meme in the comments. This is what we're here for. This is what we need. I really rate Yuki. I really rate Yuki for this race week. Obviously, it helps with AlphaTauri being based close to Imola, San Marino, Emilia Romagna, Italy, Pirelli Grand Prix setting. I think that's good. I think it's another opportunity for Yuki to show how versatile he is as well, because obviously Bahrain's quite an open, wide circuit, whereas Imola is obviously tighter and a little bit more, a little bit closer for comfort in certain areas. I think he'll shine through because he's not afraid of battling, and he doesn't seem to be afraid of going for moves and being ambitious with what he's doing. So I think he's going to shine again this weekend. I actually think Yuki's going to look really good this year.
Yeah, I think he really surprised me, because every year there's hype whenever a new driver enters the sport, and he's actually living up to the hype. He's living up to it. And like I've said before, Red Bull are going to have a lot of choices to make, probably sooner than most people think, in terms of how good. Maybe three, four, let's say four. Going to include Gasly, but Gasly, I don't know what his future holds. So there, let's have your prediction. Who's going to take pole position at Imola?
I think it's always tough to look past Lewis and Max, isn't it? Well, that's boring. But who else? Who else would it be? I think, you know what, I would probably say Max, because I just think that car is a little bit more dialed in right now. I think it's ever so slightly more dialed in.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Well, who would you say?
I'm going to go with Max as well. It's very boring. Samit's asking for crazy predictions. We'll get to those in a second. I just think that Honda engine is definitely getting stronger. I think because it's did you say it was a AlphaTauri track?
Yeah, they're based quite close to the circuit.
Was it? Do you know if that's where they did their testing or their filming?
I don't know if they do now, because I think they do testing somewhere else.
But you remember Yuki had a test recently.
I think that was in an older car.
Okay.
Yeah, but they'd re-livered it, I think.
So they're up to spec. Yeah,
he did get to have a look.
I can't see it. I can't see past Red Bull at the moment. I think it will be a similar situation to the last race where Max is on pole, Lewis second. Should I chuck in a wild card? Not just yet. I'll keep it PG. Say Bottas will secure third place. Who do you think how do you think they'll line up?
I'm just trying to think about last year and who did well last year.
Well, Lewis won, Valtteri Bottas second, Daniel Ricciardo third.
Max was very good as well, but he crashed, didn't he? He had that issue. I think he had a puncture or the suspension failure or something.
Yeah, have you seen that meme about Max and then the Italian races? I don't think he's finished on the podium, or maybe even finished a race. I can't remember what it is exactly, but he doesn't do well in Italy. I know that for a fact. That is strange. That is because there's been a lot of talk about Max recently. I'd love to hear what people think in the comments. Do you think this will be his year? Because all the talk is going in that direction. But knowing what Formula One is like, it tends to be a lot of pre-season hype and trying to build up the challenger kind of narrative to the strongest team, just to keep it more interesting than what we know it may turn out to be, given how strong Mercedes have been in the past. So what do you think of Max's prospects this year?
I think we're really going to see this year if he's got the minerals that what it takes to be the next world champion. And I know everyone's like, everyone almost assumes that he's going to be really, really close to Lewis come the end of this year. But you still see odd mistakes from him. Yeah. And it's not even mistakes that cost him the race. It's not necessarily mistakes that mean he crashes out or anything like that. It's just little errors in judgment and little things where it's just that final edge, because he's very quick and you see him like with outstanding performances, and sometimes he just dominates and he looks fantastic. But I know we spoke about this a while ago, but with the situation in Bahrain when he was chasing Lewis towards the end of the race, there were other opportunities that would have been better than going around the outside of turn 4. There were other opportunities coming. And I know this that age-old thing, if you don't go for the gap, blah, blah, blah. And yes, that's fair enough. But the best of the best make calculated moves at the right time. Because if he'd just waited a little bit longer, it wouldn't have allowed Lewis enough time to line up another move. Because obviously when you're overtaking, you can't just go straight back. you have to line up the move again. Sometimes that takes a little while. So if Max had waited just a little bit longer until he had a surefire move and Lewis basically had to cede the position, perhaps on start finish straight when the other DRS, you would imagine that Lewis wouldn't have been able to take that position back. And it's little things like that where I think, what would Lewis do in that situation? And I think he would maybe have waited and just left him in that kind of danger zone and maybe try to pressure him into a mistake or something like that. But I don't know. We'll see. I'll say all this, and he might win every race for the rest of the year. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think there are other drivers that are on a similar level to Max that don't necessarily get as much kudos because they're not in the best machinery.
Who are those drivers?
I think Charles Leclerc is one of them. And I know it was one race, but I think George Russell has the potential to be that sort of driver very soon. And I also think drivers like Daniel Ricciardo have got that sort of ability. I'm not saying over one lap they're as good, but I think when you look at the course of a season and the sustained consistency, I think that there's a lot of people saying that it's Lewis and Max on the same tier and then everyone else is below. I think it's tighter than that.
Yeah. I do genuinely think it isn't as clear cut as people think, because over the past few weeks, I've just seen a lot of talk about Max being the main guy. And I even read about Jenson Button coming out and saying at one point that Max is the fastest F1 driver ever. And I'm thinking, what does he actually mean by that? Let me know in the comment section if you're watching. Let me know what you thought of those comments from Jenson Button. I don't think they're anything new, but it did make me think, why does he think that? He's a driver, he knows what he's talking about. But at the same time, what has Max done to basically justify that kind of praise?
Because the issue as well with that sort of comment is, like, I really like Jenson Button. Like, I just rate him. I think he's great. But it's difficult to make comments like that when he's 23. So it's tough to say that someone is the fastest driver ever at 23. And also, when you compare across different eras, like there are so many different drivers from different eras that you could compare. And I know we've talked about this before, but I think this is part of the reason why Sebastian Vettel struggled these past couple of years, because the cars have changed. And the things that make particular drivers outstanding in certain regulation spec rules make other drivers not outstanding in certain situations. So, like, you've seen, like, don't get me in comments, everyone, but like, you see drivers like Robert Kubica, who was outstandingly quick in certain circumstances, but never really put a great career together. But in certain circumstances, he's one of the fastest drivers on the planet. Yeah. And I think, like, there's a lot more nuance to it. It's easy to grab a headline and say that someone's the fastest ever, and you see pundits do it, obviously, for headlines. Yeah. But I think the actual debate there's more to it than that.
Yeah, the way that I see it is it's about the consistency. It's fair enough doing it on one lap, but doing it lap after lap after lap when someone's hounding you to try and take your position and still managing to hold behind them whilst your tyres are dead.
My tyres are gone, Bono.
My tyres are gone. Whilst your tyres are completely gone, or you shouldn't be on those tyres, or that the tyres literally fallen to bits, and you're still able to produce the performance and do it year after year after year, even in a dog of a car, it does say a lot. And for me, like you said, with Charles Leclerc, George Russell, Daniel Ricciardo, they've all come up through the lower series. I know Max did take part in some of the series, but not as much, or nowhere near as much as the other drivers around him. And I think winning is a habit, it's a mindset. Max has got that to an extent, but he doesn't have it to the same extent as a Charles Leclerc or a George Russell, where they've done it at every single category. And if you go and watch the great teams, I know it's different sports and different players, it becomes a habit. And I just worry with Max that he hasn't tasted that enough yet. So he doesn't necessarily have that muscle memory in his brain of being able to cope with the pressure, being able to deliver those fast laps, lap after lap after lap, race after race after race. That's where my doubt is. And
it's a big take, but I agree.
Yeah, like I just doubt it so much, because if you look at all the greats, they've all managed to secure a championship at that very young age. So for, like you say, like this season, I think if Max doesn't do it, God, I don't want to say it, but he could turn out to be probably one of the most overhyped drivers ever, because there is just so much hype. And I remember watching something about Jos Verstappen when he first arrived on the scene, and the way that him and his manager basically positioned themselves as being the up and coming. He was the up and coming driver, and they basically started a bidding war for him because the hype around him was so much. He was so quick, over one lap, I think, which impressed people. Obviously, it showed potential, but then when it came to the actual races and stuff, it kind of just fell apart and disapparated. And I know Max and Jos aren't the same, but it does remind me that similarity in terms of the hype behind the driver. And then I don't know if you remember, but Jos and Max basically said the fastest equipment basically means you win the championship. If you don't have the fastest equipment, you're not going to win, which I don't necessarily think is always the case. In the majority of times it is, but if you're truly capable of winning the championship, you'll force your way there somehow. You'll do it. And he's done really well. Don't get me wrong. He has done really well. And it is a different time in terms of Mercedes dominance, but that car's been able to win races.
Yeah.
Mercedes they have been pretty dominant, don't get me wrong, but not to the extent where other teams aren't able to vie for position. And
there have been opportunities, haven't there? There's been opportunities for Red Bull to capitalise more.
Yeah,
and I would go slightly different, and I think he's still very young. I think he's still got a lot of time. Like he might still be driving in 15 years in F1, and he already feels like he's been around forever.
My point is, if we look at all the greats when they first arrive on the scene within, is it 1 or 2 years? I know it's hard to compare with Max, but I think it's between 1 and 3 years of them arriving on the grid. They've secured their championship. Maybe not Kimi Räikkönen. I think he took a little bit longer, but most of them, they do it.
This is the thing, though. This is
at this age that Max is now.
Okay. So this is the thing, because I see what you're saying, but I think the thing as well is because they were in lower formulas and they spent more time in GP2, F2, whatever it was. It seems like they've been racing for less time, because, like you say, in the second or third season, they're starting to bag championship. Whereas because Max was in F1 when he was like 17, 18, it feels like he's been around longer, but he's still a similar age to when those drivers won their first championship. And I think if you pulled Lewis just out of the championship and you put in more or less any of the other drivers, like aside from that super high echelon of driver, like those top kind of 3 or 4, and you put someone else in, I think Max probably wins the last 2 championships. Well, I say last 2, this most recent one and this one coming. But you've got to beat the best to be the best.
Yeah, I really do hope he does it this season.
Yeah, I think he will. I think he will at some point. I don't think it will be this year.
You heard it here first. Get that. Clip him up. Get those quotes. So if you're watching this on playback, let us know what you think in the comments section below. Give the video a like and all that jazz. We've got a request from Samet. You already said it before. Crazy predictions for the race. I'm going to go ahead and give it Charles Leclerc. I just really think they're going to come back stronger this year. I keep on saying it. Last year, just looking at the results for qualifying, he actually qualified in 7th place, which I think is pretty decent given how bad that car is. So my crazy prediction is for him to probably qualify in the top 4, maybe. Let's say 4th place, because I just rate him so highly. And we're just going to give him a podium as well. Let's just do that. 3rd place finish for Charles. I really do think this track is not very forgiving, because I'm remembering just thinking back to George Russell's time and the article that you sent to me about him making up for his mistakes last year, where he binned the car under the safety car, which was obviously not a great moment for him. Remember those images of him sat in the grass. I really do think it will be a time for those naturally brilliant drivers to really shine, and you really do see it in basically the lineup of the grid. We saw last year Daniel Ricciardo have a strong performance in qualifying and the race, and I do think the talent will shine through at this race, and I hope that Max will be one of those people that is able to hold it together, because he hasn't had the best of luck in Italy. So what's your crazy prediction?
I don't know if it's a crazy prediction or not, but I have a prediction that might upset a few people.
Oh God!
For Sebastian Vettel to miss out on points again.
Oof, yeah, I don't think that's that crazy, to be honest.
Right. But if you think about when the news came out, and then there was talk of Aston Martin and talk about this extra investment, if I'd have made that prediction 2-3 months ago, you'd be like, "Oh, no way!" Blah blah blah. But I don't know. He's just not right, is he? At the minute, I know. Again, it's easy to make these comments when there's one race down, but and the whole narrative as well seems to have dipped already after one race. And he's like hitting back at people making comments, and he's responding to people and things like that in the media.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
But just like people asking questions, and he's answering quite directly about certain things. I think someone mentioned something about. Sorry.
Give us some examples, on.
There was something around someone making a comment about nervous rear ends of the car, and he said he responded to something about that, saying that it wasn't an issue, and that he's driven cars with nervous rear ends quickly, and he's driven cars without nervous rear ends also quickly. But yeah, there's just I don't know. It just feels a bit weird to me. And the thing is, I'm not a Seb hater. I really like Seb, and I really want him to do well, and I really want that partnership to work with Vettel and Aston Martin. But I think they probably should have just kept Checo.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think it's with Vettel. That's probably one of the topics that I forgot to mention. I was wanting to definitely discuss. Whether his time is coming to an end in F1, because I was so excited to see him in the Aston Martin car. I thought it was his time for a fresh start. The car was so good last year. I thought they would continue with that kind of high level of performance. And I thought it'd be a good opportunity for Seb to have that car that wasn't the dog. And it feels like the Ferrari have become a lot stronger, and the Aston Martin has become pretty much a very, very hard car to drive at the moment. And that incident where he spun just reminded me so much of all those times at Ferrari where he just struggled big time. And I just worry that it's going to continue for him. I really do worry, because it, like I said about the mindset of winning and it becoming a habit, it also works in the opposite direction in terms of when you make a mistake, your mind starts playing tricks on you and you lose confidence. A lot of it is about confidence. And if what you are doing when you're younger or when you were successful was just intuitive and natural, you did it without thinking, and now you're struggling to get in the points regularly, you're struggling to keep the car on track, that's definitely that's a mindset thing. It definitely is a mindset thing.
It's about flow, isn't it? Like, and he doesn't seem to be in flow at the minute. He doesn't seem to be in rhythm. Like, it just seems a bit unsettled. And the incident with Ocon at Bahrain is kind of just testament to that. Because all weekend he wasn't quite right, and then being overtaken, and then going back into the path of where Ocon had just been, and then just running into him. That's not something that Prime Vettel would have done. And I know like these things happen when you're racing at such high speeds, and like I couldn't do it. I'd like to have a go, but I couldn't do it. But with that sort of level, you just don't expect stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the reason why it stands out so much is because it's him. He's a 4-time world champion.
Yeah,
and nobody else is doing it. Not even the rookies or the newbies. Like, are they
one rookie made a bit of a silly mistake in Bahrain.
But did he rear end someone?
No, he just gone off, didn't he?
How many times? How many times do you see that kind of stuff happening where someone is literally rear ending another driver? I only remember Seb doing it. Let me know if there's other occasions where that's happened, but it really does stick in your mind when a 4-time world champion is making those kind of mistakes. Those breaking.
Well, in Austria last year, Leclerc landed on Vettel's car, didn't he? Off the hairpin, like jumped up off the curb and landed on top of the car. And there was something at Silverstone as well a couple of years ago where people were running into each other. I think Vettel was involved in that. But yeah, just very strange, just weird. And that kind of leads me to thinking that on such a challenging track that is very narrow and demands like complete concentration from drivers every corner, particularly fighting in that midfield, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little error there. Because all it takes is you've just put one tyre on the grass, you spin, you lose all those positions. It's unsafe to go back onto track because it's so busy. You then rejoin in 19th or 20th, and then you've got to try and fight through all those cars to get back to the points. Yeah, I don't know if he and that car has got that at the minute.
So he qualified in 14th place last year and finished in 12th. So obviously not a great track for him last year. And I don't think he necessarily has that ability to drag a car that's not very good into a position that will allow him to fight for points or podiums. I'm not sure. Not really sure. Don't know enough about him before he was at the Red Bull setup.
He came in very young, didn't he? He came into Red Bull very young. And from there was just successful. And again, like you say, it's that thing of that mindset, isn't it? Because for that half a decade, he was almost untouchable. And then things have slowly got worse as time has gone on. But obviously he's carrying around that legacy of being 4-time world champion and all the expectations that come with it. And that's almost his biggest enemy at the minute, the expectations, because everyone thinks that he's just like one day going to flick a switch and be challenging up in 3rd or 4th place again. I feel like that's difficult to imagine.
I think it's only gonna happen if he has the good car.
Yeah, well, yeah,
a decent car that's built around him, because he's been the one that's helped Ferrari develop decent cars that have been able to kind of challenge Ferrari and Mercedes up until recently. So I don't know if he'll get the time to do it at Aston Martin. I just don't think Lawrence Stroll frets about too much. Like, he'll be looking at this and thinking, I'm paying you because you're a 4-time world champion. I need 4-time world champion performances.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good for Lance though. If he beats Seb this year. Good for his reputation.
God. Just thinking about my predictions that I made. Seb, don't let me
great predictions though.
I know they were mad predictions, but I just want Seb to just do it. Just put in the performances, get back to his best. But I think we'll leave it there for now. Thank you, Raj Sharma. I just hope he's doing mistakes because he's new to the car. Let's hope that is true. If you're watching this on playback, make sure you leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. Leave a like. And if you enjoy this content, consider subscribing to the channel so that you don't miss out on any content that's coming up soon. But that's pretty much it. So thank you for joining, everyone. Until next time.